Well, welcome everybody. I am Katie Campbell, the Chief Client Officer at Vision Point Marketing, and we are here today for our next episode around our proprietary adult learner study hosted on the Rock and Roll podcast. I am so excited to be joined by Becky Murison, our Director of Media, to really dive into some of the insights that we got from this study around this specific audience, especially when it comes to their media habits, not just what channels they use, but how they use it, when they're on it, maybe ways we could better connect with them to make sure we have that right media mix to drive for our enrollment goals. So Becky, welcome. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Well, to get us going, there were a couple things that really shined out of this study, and I think came kind of yelling out from the data that we saw across all audiences. As a reminder, we did survey and kind of segment our survey into three different groups. We had our adult learner audience, our largest sample size, and those are individuals who had interest in pursuing higher ed in the next 2 to 4 years, but did not have their bachelor's degree as of yet. So some of that some or no college population. We had then another group segmented in the study around those who had completed a bachelor's degree and were interested in pursuing a graduate degree in the near future. And then we had non-path learners, those who identified themselves as not interested or not currently thinking about pursuing any form of education in the next couple of years, just so we could compare against the different backgrounds. But one thing that came shining through all groups was YouTube, YouTube, YouTube. So Becky would be curious whether we heard about it for social media, streaming, even searching and learning about colleges and institutions. Yet from what my personal experience, and I'd be curious to yours, I hear YouTube being asked to be removed from media plans sometimes, or it's too much up there in that top of the funnel work, or XYZ. So I'm curious for why you think maybe that disconnect exists, and if that's true for your experience too.
Yeah, absolutely. YouTube, we know as well, is the second most popular search engine as well. But people don't think about it as a search engine. People think of it as, hey, that's where I watch this one thing or get this one question answered or do my DIY. It's just kind of not necessarily it's a secondary thought almost. And it's just so ingrained in what we do that we don't even think about it. We don't even think about it the way we would turning on a TV show or things like that, even if you're watching content in that way. It really is just kind of the nature of the channel. That said, as well, from a digital standpoint, even though it's very strong top of the funnel, until our YouTube's and Google's recent adjustment to demand gen campaigns, we didn't always see strong conversions there. So it is more that awareness, interest, learning, very first step for users in general. So when you aren't seeing those strong signals right away, it is easy to say, hey, I want to cut my investment here. I want to move it elsewhere. But there really needs to be a balance. Obviously, we want to be heavy for the majority of universities and community colleges at the middle of the funnel, but the top of the funnel, you can't forget it, or else the middle of the funnel and then eventually down funnel eventually suffers.
Yeah, it absolutely has its role. And that is interesting to think of it as a search platform, as much as it is a video streaming platform, maybe even a social media platform, but truly as a search platform. With that, I'm also kind of curious, knowing YouTube owned by Google, I think some people maybe don't have the full background or context into all of the targeting that is available in YouTube, because even though it is top of the funnel, you can still make it specific. Do you mind talking a little bit about that? Like, what are some of the options that we seem to, the trigger or levers we pull in the back end of YouTube to make it resonate with these groups?
Sure, absolutely. They're definitely changing in the demand gen world. So demand gen is more AI driven. So something to keep in mind there. You can still target by, they're not quite lookalike segments, but they are specific segments. So say, hey, we're looking for people who are looking for terms like this. We are looking for people who are visiting websites like this. In the demand gen segment, that's kind of what that looks like. On more traditional YouTube campaigns, there are just endless options. So you really can get down to, demographics, age, gender, income, all of those things. But we can also do specific placements. So if you want to be on specific YouTube channels, as long as they have advertising options, we can say, hey, you want to talk to Hank Green listeners? We got you. We'll put some of that segment in there. We can do really in-market segments, so people who are currently looking for degrees or maybe looking for even certain kinds of jobs. And we can do specific interests or specific interest types. We can also adjust where in the process it is. So shorts, especially in demand gen, is getting more popular as a specific segment, and we know that those vertical videos are fantastic for shorts as shorts continues to take off. But we are also saying, hey, maybe this is the right video for somebody watching on a TV, and saying we want to get a user on a TV. We want to get people in stream. So as they're viewing, looking for more content, that's where we want to show up. Or we want to show up as like a traditional bumper and what you'd normally think of as a YouTube advertisement.
Yeah, lots of options and love the specificity. You can almost make it contextual in that way around specific programs or for a
Absolutely.
certain audience type. So, no, that's great to hear. And then on the flip side of that, I feel like when talking with institutions about the channel they want always in the mix for adult learners, and especially grad programs, is LinkedIn. And as a marketer, right, we're looking at channels saying, okay, but also let's think about return on investment. What is the cost of advertising on LinkedIn versus what we would get out of that? And I think a lot of that goes towards the assumption, well, LinkedIn is there as a professional platform, and these are job related or job they correspond with someone's ability maybe to or options to then advance their job or go into another career path, and LinkedIn is a relevant platform. But that we saw kind of a different result come through from the survey. So really we saw about 26% of grad learners use it regularly, and outside of that only 11% of adult learners listed LinkedIn as a go-to platform. So curious to your thoughts on this and maybe how that would drive how we approach media buying on that platform.
Yeah, so over and over again over the years, I have been surprised by LinkedIn and um, the level, the areas they put care into, and the areas where they say, maybe not. So it's been very unique. I actually wrote a blog as far back as 2016 when Microsoft acquired them, with all this speculation of all the things that they could and were going to do. And I will say, pretty good at predicting things that definitely did not land for that particular blog though. So yeah, they have made some adjustments to the platform, but I think more and more people still look at it as less of a social network, more of a career path, a resume, how to get your next thing. What are my former coworkers doing? More a checking in, or maybe prompting a little bit of a celebratory win. But the average user isn't connecting for a long period of time. To that point as well, you kind of alluded to platform minimums. So LinkedIn, at its lowest minimum dollar amount, is $10 a day. So the least you can really spend per month is about $350. Not that we, suggest that low a dollar amount for most LinkedIn campaigns, but when you have other platforms that have a dollar a day or less, I think Google, again, would never advise this to our clients, but you could be spending, essentially pennies on a Google search campaign, and still actually get some results there. LinkedIn, you really can't even get the visibility there at all. So the platform minimums, the features, they don't really do as in-depth targeting as, say, a Meta or a Snapchat. They're not segmenting their audiences very well as well. So there's a lot of factors there, a lot of potential, but unfortunately, LinkedIn as the platform itself has not really tapped into that itself. So yeah.
Yeah, and it's almost like how these adult learners or the ones that we surveyed self-elected that as well. That's not where they're saying they're spending their time. It's of interest, and to a percentage of those, especially those who already have a bachelor's degree and are curious about a graduate degree, sure, it's a platform where they spend time, but not as much maybe as we assume, given its relevancy to the products that then we're looking, or the courses or programs that we are promoting.
Exactly. And the intent is key here too. So again, with more people looking to that as a applying to jobs, figuring out where their previous coworkers are, just it's not where they're looking for those answers. It's not where they're looking for um, the steps to get to career development. It's actual career development at this point. So yeah.
Do you think that is there a couple of program? I know we're talking in big generalizations right now, and that's because we're looking at a general study, which makes complete sense. Are there a couple of program types that come to mind though that you're like, I do typically put LinkedIn in that mix?
Yeah, so MBA would be one at the jump. Technical programs, so IT people tend to favor LinkedIn more heavily, engineering as well. On the flip side of that, degrees like education, educators do not heavily use LinkedIn. They also don't heavily use Meta, so that's something else to keep in mind as well. And that really is just the nature of an education degree. Now, when you get into the PhD, professor level, maybe you have a little bit of a difference, but like K through 12, you're not seeing that audience there. So um, business minded individuals, so your accounting, your marketing are more likely to be there, but more specialized or niche degrees or artistic degrees, that's not where, beyond career advancement itself, that's not really where you're seeing that audience.
No, great to know. So then when thinking about, so that was a little bit around where they spend their time. When it comes
Sure.
to when adult learners are actually leveraging these platforms, we saw some results from the study or some data from the study come out holistically saying they are online all day, every day. No surprise, just even thinking of our own user habits or others' user habits that we observe, but definitely different peaks depending on each audience. Are there ways, and what are those ways that we can design campaigns that take that into account to really
Yeah.
meet them not only where they are, but like when they are there?
Yeah, absolutely. So there are a number of different levers from day parting to just being on certain channels, which can help in the time mix. But really, it is more about kind of what we were talking about before about making sure that you are on a wider variety of channels. So, day parting is great. If you say, hey, I don't think anybody between midnight and 6 a.m. is, applying to filling out a form. I'm worried I'm going to get more bot traffic. Sometimes we see that, but sometimes we see a surprising uptick for certain degrees, and it doesn't necessarily follow anecdotally what we would think would happen. So we do a little bit of day parting, but it's not something because you may miss that one really good student just got up in the middle of the night and was like, "Hey, I want a whole career change. I can't." Yeah, can't stay where I'm at. Yeah, lots of options, but really, again, it comes back to the breadth, making sure you're looking at where they spend the majority of the time and getting in front of them more often than anything else.
Yeah, no, absolutely. There's something about that frequency. We know that we need to see a message multiple times before it drives us to take that action. And with adult learners, they are so much less on this enrollment cycle that many higher ed marketers are used to with a traditional undergraduate audience of, I'm going to take my standardized test September, October. I'm going to have my list down by October, November, applications in by December, decisions. And that just does not exist for adult learners. It is a constant consideration process. So no, absolutely hear that. And I think within that light, kind of thinking of maybe my final question for you is just like, if you had to do a starting media mix for a school that didn't have an unlimited budget, if budget was of course you can never have enough. I'm a true believer, but if we had a program or a school come to us at Vision Point and say, we've got a limited budget but we really need to make some adult learner enrollment gains. Maybe that's because there's been a workforce change in their top geos. Maybe that's because they are watching the census data of the demographic cliff come in their high schools and they know that there's not enough high schoolers to fill their classes. What would your starting media mix be for an institution with maybe a limited budget, but a big adult learner charge in front of them?
Yeah, absolutely. So, even with AI kind of disrupting the game, 96% of all search is still coming from Google. So, Google search has to be number one, no matter what program, no matter what learner type. And this has the highest intent as well. So, people are actually asking questions, whereas with AI tools, they may be doing other more specific task-based work rather than anything else. After that, it would actually be Meta. So there are a lot of concerns that Gen Z may not be using Meta quite as actively. They think of it as their parents' channel in some cases. But when we look at who is actually acquiring data and who actually gets the highest quality leads, I always call it their creepy data. But it's still Meta and they still lead the way. It can be estimated as much as 70% of paid media leads are coming from that turn into students come from Google, but a large percentage are still turning into students from Meta as well. And then finally, you do want some top of the funnel, kind of related to what we were talking about earlier. So I would do some kind of programmatic display or CTV, just placing in kind of those in between moments. But I would keep my budget low here, maybe as 5% in some cases. It really is more just making sure you're visible when they are browsing the web or watching specific media. So yeah.
Awesome. Well, Becky, thank you so much for your insights and your analysis here. Incredibly helpful. For anyone listening who is interested to see the full breadth of that adult learner study that we mentioned, proprietary to Vision Point, you can absolutely access that on our website, visionpointmarketing.com. And feel free to reach out to us at info@visionpointmarketing.com. We've got several complimentary diagnostics that we offer institutions across the country. If you would just like us to take a look at your media plan or secret shop you or offer a second opinion as to how you're currently trying to engage adult learners and offer some recommendations, we'd be happy to go forward with that. Thanks all so much for listening and have a great rest of your day.